Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Well, I am good. I'm good. Some days are better than others, but I'm good because this day is better than the other days that I've had that it wasn't. Nevertheless, I woke up this morning. I took my shower. I prayed. I reflected, and tried to start to get my day started. But then again, I turned on the news and I saw this story about these kids at this school where they started this GoFundMe for one of their janitors who was 80 years old and he had to return to work because his rent was raised. And it kind of made me feel in a put me in a negative space because I'm like, that's just so unfair because that's not the person who made that decision to raise their rent wasn't raising their rent based off of love. It was raising their rent based off of necessity. And they use that excuse to say that the cost of living is raised and stuff like that. So I got to raise your cost of living. You don't have to raise that cost, pass that cost on to others who are not as fortunate as you are to own a piece of property or to have multiple sources of income. When you get someone that's 80 years old and they're retired or whatnot, they have a fixed income and they are just trying to get by. But you raise their rent, now they can't live anymore. You're making it hard for them. I think that's disgusting. And you upset when the feds or whoever raised the rate and raised the cost of living, but then you go and pass it off to somebody else so they can be upset with you. But where's the doing better? There's none. And I know there's this thing about saying that the reason for a lot of people owning property is for wealth. And the people of color's reasons is for quote unquote generational wealth. Now, generational wealth, a lot of people's generational wealth that wasn't of color or whatnot, they generational wealth was raised off the backs of others, was raised off of the backs of slavery, the backs of forced labor, etc., stuff like that. And it was wrong. It was morally wrong. But now you're creating general wealth and you're following that same pattern while raising for your generational wealth for your family, you're raising it off the back of somebody who can barely afford it as well. Somebody that's retired, that's 80, can barely move. It's selfish and it's disgusting. And I don't want to hear, because I've heard this before from somebody who owned property, and they say, "Well, that's not a man of you. You're not a man to question how somebody else run their property or whatnot." It's easy to say that for somebody who don't own property. First of all, you didn't know me, and second of all, that's erroneous, and third of all, you sound stupid. Because I see often where people who say who people who are oppressed for whatever reason, whether it be financially, economically, socially, or whatnot, they try to change their position by oppressing others and doing the same process that others did for them to get wealthy. And it's not making it any better. You're perpetuating the same process over and over and over again, which again leads me to say that it's not about love. It's about greed and it's about other things. I can't really get the word out of my head, but you know what I'm saying. I think I remember posing this process to people who rent. Like, if you're a property owner and you're renting to someone, I think that there should be a program. Well, I know I would do it, where the people that you're renting to, that you set up this a kind of like an account for them to where when you give their rent, when they get there, and it's not called a security deposit. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if they pay their rent, put a certain portion aside of their rent, which is for them. And it keeps building to where if they ever come into a situation where they are not able to afford their rent or the cost of living go up or whatever it may be, that monies will be able to be applied towards their situation that can help them out. And it's not a savings account either. Because when people have savings, excuse me, savings accounts or whatnot, usually, and they're going through problems, their savings account won't just go towards their cost of living. I mean, their rent or mortgage and whatnot. It's going towards food. It's going towards car payments. Going towards clothes. It's going towards transportation or something. But one thing that my mom and her grandma always said, that if you don't pay anything else, keep a roof over your head. And this situation is one of those situations to where if somebody can't afford certain things and their cost of living or lose their job or whatnot, they still have an account that's been able to help them with some of their financial their living arrangements. And what would be even more kind and generous is if you were able to match some of that to help them out when they get to that point. Because the way society is, they make it to where it's not very hard to get to that point. But I said these things to say that it's not, when people get property or whatnot or anything else, it's not done out of love for others when they're housing people. They're doing it out of the necessity for money or necessity for a certain lifestyle, or to be in that category of people who are wealthy or well off to have their own. You don't have to do it that way. I'm not saying you. I know you're not going to listen to me, but I'm just saying that if you all say you have love, and there's some people who would admit it, they won't say it. But those who say they have love would think of other people in this light. Love is not about thinking of you. It's not about selfishness. It's about selflessness. Because a lot of times when you do something out of selflessness or whatnot, it'll come back to you, so you won't have to be put in a position where you are selfish. Because it's going to automatically come back because you're helping someone and somebody's going to help you. It's going to come back. You don't have to be put in that situation to where you are selfish. Love is misconstrued in so many ways that it's ridiculous. And when I say the things that I'm saying, it's not out of hate. I say it out of love. Because you disagree with someone doesn't mean that you don't love them. It doesn't. Now, the actions that come behind the disagreement that comes across as like taken away from their growth, or taken away from, not talking about growth financially. I'm talking about their growth spiritually, their growth as a good person, or their growth to evolve. If I'm taken away from that, then that's not love. So what I am doing is totally opposite of that. And I say that, and I can't say this enough, is that people, Yah will provide. The Most High will provide, as He always does. It's just that sometimes you may not see it because you are used to a certain lifestyle, or you're used to a certain way of thinking. Forget everything that you think you know when it comes down to life, to open yourself up to continuously learning new things, and continuously learning and listening, because you don't know everything. I don't care how much money you get, how much 401ks, how much finances. I don't care how big your house is, what kind of car you drive. I really don't, because it doesn't make any difference. That will be gone, but love is eternal. And if you don't show love for your fellow human beings, or your brother and sister, or fellow, if you don't show that love or whatnot, it's a good possibility that when you do make that transition, you will go to a place where the loveless go. Good possibility of that. But you have the option to change, so change it. Or continuously live in the way you want to live. It's up to you. I'm just merely making a suggestion from love. All right? I'm going to continue throughout my day and, trying to create something. And I pray you all do the same with yours and heed what I was saying. And that having property or having financial wealth or generational wealth is not worth your soul. What does it profit a man to gain the world but lose his soul? You will find out if you continue on these paths. All right. I love you all to life. I pray you the best. Be safe. Be fruitful. Not the other way. Be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful with your actions. Be fruitful with your giving of love. Be fruitful with your everything. Again, not with that. Unless you're married. But y'all take care now. I'll talk to you in a bit. I love you all.